Live and direct from the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar in downtown Bismarck, North Dakota, home of the North Dakota Legislature, which is underway in its second week. Hi, everybody. I am Scott Hennon, along with Dale Wetzel. And another hour of the Legislature today is underway. We are looking forward to this hour, brought to you by our friends at the University of Mary, America's Leadership University. We'll meet two freshman legislators who stepped up to the plate from the business world to serve the state of North Dakota. We'll talk with some of the leaders from the University of Mary worldwide that is taking that wonderful, world-famous University of Mary education and bringing it to you today on the program in this particular hour as well. And by the way, we thank our sponsors as well. Monday nights we have the pleasure of talking with the folks from the Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties as our Monday night sponsor. Tuesday night, the Credit Union Association of the Dakotas provided a great conversation last night. Wednesdays, the University of Mary, and Thursdays, we're looking forward to adding now our friends from the North Dakota Corn, Soybean, and Grain Growers Association, and they will join us tomorrow night and talk a little bit about some of the issues specifically related to farm-to-market roads, one of the things that they'll be dealing with in the coming weeks and months, so we look forward to that as well and welcome them as sponsors. We come to you live and direct from the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar. It is in downtown Bismarck, and it's a great place to eat. The meals are fabulous. The service is incredible. The folks are very friendly here. Wednesday means Wine Down Wednesday. You get half-price bottles of wine, so a great deal. Come down, bring some friends, and enjoy some great wine selections. Wine Down Wednesday, half-price bottles of wine. We also want to thank our partner, the Expressway Inn and Expressway Suites in Bismarck. They're on, of course, the Bismarck Expressway. You can find out more about them and book your rooms at expresswayhotels.com. Proud of our lodging sponsor, the Expressway Inn and Expressway Inn and Suites, here on the Legislature Today radio show. Well, another busy day. Dale Wetzel, managing editor of the Great Plains Examiner and Great Plains News, roving the halls of the Legislature. You don't slow down much during the day, Dale. Give us a quick sense of your average day of the Legislature covering things that are happening.
Well, I have to call in to KFYR radio at 7 a.m., so that's how my day starts about half an hour before then, because I want to speak before I don't want the first words out of my mouth to be on a live radio station, and I might sound like I've been gargling razor blades or something like that. And then, of course, we wind up at 9 p.m. with the end of the show, and it's an interesting day. It's a long day, but it's fun. Have a lot of fun. You get to meet lots of interesting people, such as our guest this evening, Dr. Jim Jones. Excuse me. He prefers Jim, the Vice President for Continuing and Professional Education at the University of Mary, and we also have Ms. Rachel Brash, the Executive Director of UMary Worldwide, which is one of the more impressive titles I've heard this week. We
are looking forward to chatting with both of them, and they're a great partner, and we look forward to them promoting public service. So there's more legislators that are doing what they're doing. What was the big news today in the Legislature? The big news, we obviously spent some time on the DUI legislation. It was Law Enforcement Day, but what else happened today?
Well, it's unusual to come to the Capitol and walk past a coffin when you're there, and that's essentially what happened today. There was the wreckage of a car in which a family of four, well, actually it was a man, his spouse, their daughter, 18-month-old daughter, and her she was 4 months pregnant. She had an unborn child. And these people were all killed last July when they ran head-on into a drunken driver who was driving the wrong way on Interstate 94. And the wreckage of their SUV, it's actually a small SUV, was on a trailer and parked right in front of the west entrance to the Capitol. You could you had to walk past it in order to get in. And it's a very sobering reminder of what can happen when someone decides it's a good idea to get loaded and get on the road. And then upstairs, I spoke at some length with another couple who lost two young boys to a man who is believed to have been drunk when he ran over their tent. These young boys were camping at Lake Metagoshi, and in the middle of the night, a fella was driving on a nearby road, lost control of his truck, ran over the tent that they were in, and killed these two young boys. They're age 9 and age 5. And I spoke to their parents this morning, and they're here essentially trying to push for stronger DUI laws because they think that the penalty that the man who ran over their children is facing is a bit too light, and you can't blame them.
A compelling story, without question. A couple other things. I heard a lot of folks rumbling about a water fight, especially because there's a lot of dollars being allocated and a lot of competing interests for that money. What do we know about a water fight to come? And that's not unusual, really, in the legislative sessions, is it?
Well, there's more than $500 million at stake for water projects in this session, and so there's, like the old saying goes, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. And there's going to be a lot of fighting about water money, because even though there's a large sum of money to be spent, there's also a lot of needs. One of them, of course, is the proposed Fargo diversion. You have flooding projects across the state. You have frankly, the new specter of flooding along the Missouri River and along the Souris River. So there's a lot of things to take care of with that money, and there's going to be some disagreements over how it's spent and what it's spent on.
And one last thing, a story you covered, as oil drilling continues in western North Dakota, natural gas production is on the rise, and there was a proposal put forward for a tax break to cut natural gas waste. What are the chances something like that will pass?
I think that's pretty good, actually, because it's really kind of I wouldn't say a scandal, but it's a terrible shame to see 1/3 of the natural gas production in North Dakota being burned and wasted. I mean, you're literally wasting enough natural gas in a single day to heat, I think, 25,000 homes for 6 months. I mean, that's wrong. But the reason it's happening is because we have a rapid expansion of the oil industry. We have a rapid expansion as a result of natural gas, which is a byproduct of oil. And natural gas is harder to get to market than it is oil. You have to essentially have a pipeline network, and it takes time to build these pipelines. It takes time to get permission from property owners to lay pipe across their ground. And the proposal that you mentioned would essentially give natural gas producers an exemption, a 2-year exemption from the state's production tax on natural gas, if they are able to capture at least 75% of that natural gas and use it for something, be it manufacturing hydrous ammonia, generate electricity, make plastic, whatever it is that's available. And it's possible under current technology to bring up portable natural gas processing plants to a well site rather than wait for that well site to be hooked in to a pipeline. And these portable processing plants are about the size of a semi-trailer truck, and they're thought of as kind of a stopgap between the time that the well starts producing natural gas and the pipeline network finally makes its way to that well, so that you can pipe the gas to a processing plant, which we have several of in western North Dakota, and then you process the gas, you send it to markets on the West Coast, in Middle America, and there's quite a lot of natural gas consumption here in North Dakota these days, and natural gas, the plentifulness of it and the cheapness of it is quite important to our economy, because it's helping to revive a number of manufacturing sectors, because natural gas is a raw material for a lot of manufactured products, and if you have cheap natural gas, then you have more industry.
Fascinating to watch, no question about it. One of the many things happening in the legislature today. Well, let's introduce our guests and get rolling with another hour.
We have, I mentioned earlier, but we'll introduce them. Rachel Brash is the executive director of the University of Mary Worldwide, and I'm just fascinated by that title, and we'll be exploring exactly what that means. And we have Dr. Jim Jones, the vice president for continuing and professional education at the University of Mary. Greetings, Ms. Brash and Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Dr. Jones.
Thank you.
And I'd like to start with you, Ms. Brash. What does the executive director of the University of Mary Worldwide do?
Whatever needs to be done.
All right. That's the right answer.
Well, we do a couple different things in our area. First, we do accelerated programs.
And what does that mean, accelerated programs?
We do undergraduate and graduate programs. We've been in this state for quite a long time. We've been in Fargo for a long time. We have a large population of students there. We're here in Bismarck. We're down in Kansas City. We're in Billings, Montana. And we do both mostly business programs. We also have nursing counseling, and education programs.
Can you tell me some of the business programs you do?
Yeah. We have an MBA program, a Master of Science in Strategic Leadership, a Master of Project Management, and then we also have a variety of undergraduate degrees in accounting, management, and business administration, along with HR as well.
What's the job market for your graduates?
You know, we primarily see students who have been out in the workforce for a while. These are working adults. So they've either jumped right in, maybe taken a few transfer credits somewhere else, and they've never completed their degree. And so these people are looking to move up in their fields. They're looking to change their field. They're looking to do something different.
So there are people that have jobs. They just want maybe different ones or better ones.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Okay. Does an accelerated program mean that you can finish a program of instruction more quickly than normal?
Absolutely.
And can you tell me how long would it take me to get an MBA at the University of Mary?
MBA can be completed in 18 to 20 months, start to finish.
How long is that usually? How long does it usually? What's the normal time frame for an MBA?
That's normally, I mean, if you do like a resident program, those more traditional based programs, they can be easily 2 years.
Okay.
What we really focus on is application and the ability to still keep up with those other obligations in their life.
And who are your instructors for these programs that you mentioned?
People that are out there working in the field. Our students are at the point where they know the value of a tuition dollar. They know that if they want somebody who's going to tell them, this is how it works, this is what my experience is, what's your experience? Bring that into the classroom. Tell me what you think. And they want something that's going to help them get where they want to go. And so our instructors, certainly some of them are from the academic world. We have plenty of full-time instructors at the university, but then we also employ many people that are working in the field teaching what they're doing. If they're teaching finance, they're a CFO someplace.
And what value does that bring to the program to have actual working professionals who come in and teach as well?
Credibility. And also, we want our students to be successful. A lot of theory will get you only to a certain point. But if they're going into an accounting degree, we want them to pass their CPA exam if they don't already have that. We want them to be able to do what they expect when they enroll in that program. That's our goal, is that we exceed the expectations when they first contact us.
Dr. Jones, what do you do as Vice President for Continuing and Professional Education?
Everything that Rachel tells me to do.
All right. At least we know who's running things now.
Actually, I probably am the strategist for the organization and try to figure out the strategic process that we're going to go through. Trying to develop relationships between businesses and ourselves, between other educational entities and ourselves. My job is to make sure that whatever we're doing in an excellent way for our students and meeting the needs of our students. And our students can come from all walks of life and have all different kinds of needs.
When someone says to me, I'm in charge of strategic direction or that sort of thing, my natural follow-up is, what does that mean? It seems like it's hard to quantify. Could you give us some concrete examples of what that means?
Well, our strategic plan that we developed is based on the university strategic plan. We have 5 goals, and those 5 goals include sustainability, financial sustainability, enrollments, utilizing our values within the university. All of that stuff that is included into the university strategic plan is included in our strategic plan. We're an image of the university, and while you brought up the worldwide process, I think this is a good time to interject that. The worldwide name comes because we tried to identify ourselves with so many things, the adult student, the professional student, but really and truly, we're the University of Mary, and we're the University of Mary first and foremost. So because of that, we developed a title, the University of Mary Worldwide, because we are worldwide. We have a campus in Rome. We have several campuses in the United States and several different states right now, as Rachel talked about, in Kansas, in Billings, Montana. We're moving into Miles City, Montana. We're moving into Alexandria, Minnesota. And these programs are really and truly based on what the student need is in that particular area that we're moving into. And it varies based on the market we're in, the type of students we have, and what they might be looking for in terms of education.
I guess it's interesting to me, how is it that you make decisions as to where you're going to have a satellite campus, if I may use that term? I mean, why are you in Kansas City, for example? And are you in Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas?
A little
Missouri.
bit. A little bit of both.
Outstanding. I mean, what took you to Kansas City, Missouri?
Nursing and nursing education. We had a fairly significant contract with a healthcare provider in that particular area. Having spent 22 years in healthcare, it's one of those huge industries that is in need of an educational or a certification process almost continuously in order to improve services for the patients that are going into the hospital, and to ensure the fact that the faculty is trained appropriately. So we have a master's degree down there in Kansas City. We have another one at Fort Riley in Kansas. And those programs in and of themselves are training professionals that are working in the field already in order to do the job better and have them more academically prepared.
Dr. Jones, I understand that your background before you came to the University of Mary was largely in healthcare. Can you describe for us how that informs what you do at the University of Mary? And can you tell us what your healthcare background is?
Yeah, I started out 22 years ago as a data entry clerk with a PhD in healthcare and in human resources. And 5 months after that, they made me a manager. And I retired in 2005 as a senior vice president of human resources. So that was my background the entire time.
Which company did you work for?
I work for HCA Healthcare, the largest healthcare provider in the world. So.
And what do they run hospitals?
They run hospitals primarily.
Okay.
At that time, we had 354 hospitals. So, and I was one of the vice presidents. I had 7 hospitals is what I had. At one time, I had 27, but through a reorganization, they moved me into another location, so I only had 7 at that time. So, education is a forever, perpetual process. Training supervisors to be better supervisors, training managers to be better managers, and directors to be better directors, nurses to be better nurses. It's a highly skilled training process. Education reported to me when I was in healthcare, and because of that, I have a lot of understanding about what the educational process for nursing, and that includes at University of Mary. So.
The satellite campuses that you've mentioned, are they mostly for the training of nurses, or can you just talk about what you offer at the various campuses? Like what goes on in Billings, Montana, for example?
Billings, Montana, we've done a lot of undergraduate programs there, as well as our MBA program has been quite strong at our Billings program.
Is there a lot of demand for MBAs in this market?
I think the answer to that is yes, if it's a specialty field that they're looking for. I think the issue, though, more is about approaching every degree from an applied, practical standpoint. You don't really and truly anymore want somebody that can't make a critical decision or somebody that doesn't understand how to solve a problem. Those kinds of things are critical to all businesses. So in MBA programs and management programs, what we're looking for is that applied knowledge process for critical thinking and applied knowledge and problem solving so that these guys can go out and make decisions on the spot and not have to worry about how to make the decision, because we actually have problem-solving courses, we have critical thinking courses, we have leadership courses. All of that kind of stuff helps us through the process of providing a solid background.
A couple of questions for you, Dr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
One, you mentioned earlier partnerships is one of the things that you're hopeful to expand with the University of Mary worldwide. Give us an example of how you would see the University of Mary partnering with one of many sectors of North Dakota's booming economy right now.
Well, as you and I have talked about before, I think we have to move out into the western part of the state and provide some not only educational experiences and opportunities for those individuals that are working out in the oil fields, but also for the spouses in those areas too. I think we have to be diverse enough to meet the needs of those particular organizations and go out there and ask them what they're looking for so that we can actually provide that service to them. One of the specific things that we're working on right now is with the Not-for-Profit Association in North Dakota. And we've met with them a couple times, and we're talking about how we develop courses to help the layperson that comes into a board of directors on how to conduct themselves as a board member, or how to manage, or how to look at finances or accounting. And those kinds of situations are the kind of processes that we're looking to do, and form partnerships with businesses.
How do you go about doing that?
Sorry, Dale, I didn't have your mic up. Go ahead.
How do you go about doing that, sir? Forming partnerships with businesses? Do you recruit them? Do they come to you? How does it work?
I think it's both.
Both.
And
Yeah.
how does it work, Ms. Brown?
Sometimes it's you have people who are in leadership positions in organizations are students. And so they see what's going on with their own experience, and they say, hey, can I bring this to my company? I want other people to experience that. And then it's us also hitting the pavement and getting out there and seeing what can we do. All right, our goal is to offer the complete package, so that if you have some people who just need some certification programs, we'll do that. If you have some people who need degrees, we'll do that. Tell us what you want. We can offer it at your location. Do you want it online? Do you want a weekend program? It's all about us being there for them to meet the needs of their employees.
How does it work being a private university versus a public one? How does that enhance your flexibility, or does it?
I think being a private school, the University of Mary, our reputation is certainly important, because we never shy away from the fact that we're Catholic, we're Christian, we're Benedictine. That's such an important part of what we do. So, and that also allows us to be very flexible with our strategic planning and how we approach things. We certainly don't have as many layers.
Thank you for your time. We have been talking to Rachel Brash, the Executive Director of University of Mary Worldwide, and Dr. Jim Jones, the Vice President for Consulting and Professional Education at the University of Mary here in Bismarck, North Dakota.
And Dr. Jones is going to stay with us. We'll add two more guests in the next half hour, two freshman legislators from each end of the state. Kelly Armstrong from Dickinson and Tom Campbell from Grafton will join us and talk a little bit about public service and how that intersects with what the University of Mary is doing as well, and two business leaders who are now engaged in public service serving their constituents. That when we continue on the Legislature Today radio show from the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar. This is the Legislature Today radio show. It's Wind Down Wednesday at the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar. Wednesday nights means half-price bottles of wine. Food's fantastic. The appetizers on special late night, and they have some great ones. So always invite you to join us if you're in and around Bismarck, Mandan at the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar for the Legislature Today radio show. It's a brand new effort. We're only in our second week. What we are doing is celebrating public service here. These are folks that are citizen legislators that are leaving their communities from all around the state, leaving their businesses, leaving their families to serve the citizens of North Dakota and engage in public service. And this radio program is designed Monday through Thursday nights and Saturdays 10 to noon to let you know what is happening in the legislature. We're going to meet two freshman members of the legislature in just a moment. Dr. Jim Jones continues, who is the Vice President of Continuing Education at the University of Mary Worldwide. And Dr. Jones, if you would, just maybe give us a little overview. We touched on this last week with Monsignor Shea, but how the University of Mary is committed to inspiring more public servants.
Well, I think we have to look very closely and make sure that we're providing services to the communities that we live in, and that includes Bismarck. And through that process, that comes out in service to everyone, both the students and the community that we live in. I think. I can only speak for my background and my experiences. Before I came to Bismarck, I served on 3 tri-county committees. I was chairperson or vice president of those committees, and that's the kind of service that I think we ought to provide to the public as we go through our process.
And Dale, you want to introduce our guests and we'll get our conversation going here?
We have with us here tonight Senator Kelly Armstrong, who is from Dickinson. He's an attorney. And we have Senator Tom Campbell from Grafton. He's a businessman, a potato farmer, a real estate owner, a developer, and just a general entrepreneur, I guess I'd say. And these are two gentlemen who are serving their first terms. They've been just elected last year, and they're both successful business people who decided it was time to try to put themselves forward in public service. And I guess the first question I have both of you gentlemen is, are you thinking, why in the world did I do this?
I guess I'll chime in first. It's something I've always wanted to do, way back to when I was probably in junior high. And Harley Kingsbury, I don't know if you remember him, but he was a legislature from the old District 16 in Grafton for many, many years.
Yes.
And he was kind of the godfather in the area, and I was pretty active in Republican Party back then, the District 16 that we lost the number, went to West Fargo now. And he retired in, I think, the mid to late 80s. And he asked me, he said, well, I think it'd be proper if you ran for me. And I told him, I was young then, we had kids and starting our business, and he gave me a little, I said no, I said I'm going to kind of wait to probably the middle or the end of my career when I get built up my business. And he gave me a lecture. He says he thought I should run, and he just pointed at my chest, and he says, that's the problem. He says, if everybody was like you and never got involved in politics, you wouldn't have a business environment to be in. And I never forgot that, and I knew that someday, and the opportunity was great with the redistricting in the area, so I took advantage of it.
Mr. Armstrong, what are your thoughts, having spent a couple of weeks here in the Vale of Tears?
Well, I told somebody the other day, somebody asked how my first week in the legislature went, and I said it was a lot like my criminal practice back home. We've been spending a lot of times talking about DUIs. So parsing out this stuff and dealing with it, I'm in a similar situation to Senator Campbell, and a very close confidant and family friend and business partner of mine, Jay Elkin, whose father served in the legislature for many years, approached me after I moved back from Grand Forks in 2006, and I bounced from District 36 to 37 through just moving houses. And there was an opportunity to do this because George Nodland was retiring, and I told Jay Elkin really tried to talk me into doing it, and I told him if he could convince my father that he'd let me leave work for 4 months out of every 2 years, I would do it, and somehow he convinced him, and the rest is history, so to speak.
So what are your impressions initially, both of you gentlemen?
It's been fun. It's been exciting. I enjoy working with Senator Kelly. It's one of the first times in my lifetime where I consult with an attorney. I don't think I'm going to get a bill, or am I, Senator?
Yeah, you just wait, huh?
But no, it's been a blast. The Senate, they've been very, very helpful in little things and housekeeping things. So it's been a great bunch to get to know. I knew quite a few of them before, and it's been very exciting, and it's more than what I anticipated. It's a blast. It's a lot of hard work, but I enjoy it and love it every day.
What sort of issues have you encountered so far that you thought were particularly interesting or bizarre, or what?
One thing that's been a little bit disappointing was the state of South Dakota hired a recruiter. They allocated $5 million for their budget 2 years ago. And I read an interesting article about it in the Minneapolis Tribune front page several months ago, and I'm thinking, God, this is kind of neat because our state's short workers, and we need recruiters, and you can go and steal people from other states where their unemployment's higher. And as I looked into this with some help from Legislative Counsel, John Bjornson, and Job Service, we found out that they only hired really 39 people. So it was really not a success. So I'm kind of at a crossroads. I'm not going to introduce legislation just to do it for the sake of doing it. It's got to work or perform. So I'm probably going to seek something else other than that. So I was a little disappointed in that. I have to look for some different answers to get some additional employees in the state.
What sort of issues have you dealt with, Senator Armstrong, that you thought were particularly interesting or particularly unusual?
Well, I serve on Judiciary and Transportation, and I have dealt with the Department of Transportation in my private practice for 10 years, so I speak their language, so to speak. So it's been nice to walk in doing that. I think the most interesting thing to me is primarily when I'm parsing out statutes in my day job, I'm always talking to attorneys and judges and everybody else and seeing other people's varying backgrounds and how they approach how Century Code is constructed and how things are either placed in or removed from law. And I didn't know that it was going to be so unique at the time because we're taught to think differently about law when we practice law, particularly if you're advocating for a particular side. And this is more from the statutory construction side of it. You got to make sure you get it right so people like me in my day job can't pick it apart. So it's been very fun and interesting. When
you say the Department of Transportation that you speak their language, what does that mean?
The DOT, I mean, whenever you read statutes, and anytime I see a statute that's more than one paragraph long, you start getting into it. it's almost a separate language when government starts writing things. And as you're here, sometimes when you read it, when you haven't been here, you're like, you thought they could get that into like maybe one sentence instead of 9. Mm-hmm. But you start to understand a lot of reasons why, and some of them are compromise, and some of them are issues that relate to other areas of the Century Code that you don't necessarily particularly deal with while you're practicing in that area. And so just weights, restrictions, things like that, terminology that Century Code uses that isn't used in common day-to-day life, in particular like agencies like the Department of Transportation, short-term acronyms, things of that nature that I've just known through 10 years of practice.
Dr. Jones, are there programs at the University of Mary that adapt themselves particularly well to someone who wants to be in public service, who wants to run for the legislature?
Well, there would be political science courses and stuff like that might interest them. We don't have any law or anything like that at this particular juncture. Business courses, of course, are always very good. We talked about that earlier during the session. It's very, very nice, and it brings me back to old times listening to these two gentlemen talk, because at one time I was heavily involved in politics in Minnesota and was the co-chairperson of the Republican Party for Clay County at one time when I was 27 years old. So that service level, I think, is really, really important, and understanding that. I'm not quite sure there's a class that teaches you the responsibility and public service that you've got to make to others through that process. So we do have a leadership academy at the university that we put all of our undergraduates through, and that's a big boost for us. But I think a lot of this you have to get through experience, and that's a great learning process also.
I wanted to ask our two legislators here about themselves a bit. Senator Campbell, could you just tell us about yourself? Where are you from, and where did you go to school, and what kind of businesses are you in?
From Grafton, and graduated from NDSU, and started.
What'd you study at NDSU?
Ag Econ.
Okay.
Started potato farms from scratch with my two brothers back in 1978, and expanded throughout the country. We have farms in different states. We try to keep harvesting and packing fresh potatoes 12 months a year for our customer base, and kind of expanded into, in addition to farming, expanded into banks, Choice Financial Group I'm chairman of, and involved with banking. We have bank, I think, about 9 or 10 branches right now, about $700 million in assets. That's been fun. That's been a fun trip. And
it sounds like fun.
It's been some challenges, too. In the 08 commercial real estate crisis, we took some hits like a lot of banks did, but we're recovered and doing very well now. And then we're in property management. We own a lot of apartments, primarily Fargo, Minneapolis, Detroit Lakes, Grand Forks area. So that's one of my middle brothers, Bill, manages that primarily.
What's it like to start a potato farm from scratch?
When we first started, we didn't know any better, I think, at the time. It's been a...
Why did you want to do that?
We grew up in potato country, and my dad never grew potatoes, and we had people all around us, so it was something just growing up, want to be a farmer, potato farmer, and we jumped in and started with 130 acres back in 1978, and we just kind of expanded from there, and it's been fun. We've had a lot of ups and downs, we've had a lot of successes and a lot of failures, and been fortunate enough to have just a few more successes than failures, and we're still in business. But it's been you have to have I think a cast iron gut, like Ron Offutt told me many years ago, in that business, because you've got markets, weather, so many uncontrollable variables, and but it's been fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
How is the potato business now?
Came off of 3 or 4 great years. This year in the fresh business, we grow fresh potatoes for table consumption, and the markets are down some, but overall it's still pretty good. We had a good crop, and we're going to be harvesting in Florida in a few weeks. So we're really
harvesting potatoes?
Yes,
really.
It's our winter crop. So we're really never. The fortunate thing is we're never really done. We can always hope for. If we had a bad season in one area, we can just keep hoping that. That's the farmer's ultimate optimistic prayer, is this next year, next crop, and we can say that 12 months a year. So we're hoping for a good spring.
Mr. Armstrong, where are you from originally?
I grew up in Dickinson. I left in 1995, spent 10 years in Grand Forks with a year in Virginia and a little less than a year in Oslo, Norway, mixed in there.
What were you doing in Oslo, Norway?
Getting married.
Outstanding.
I met my wife at the law school exchange program at URND after I had transferred back from the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and she had another year of law school left in Norway after I graduated law school. So I went and spent some time over there with her. Got married in Oslo, Norway.
What was it like to live in Norway?
It's a very interesting place. They very small population. Obviously, with their development of offshore oil and their national trust fund, it has recently, well, I guess in historical terms, very recently become a very wealthy country. My wife's family is pretty amazing. Her father is a microbiologist and oncologist. Her mom is an engineer. Her brother's an attorney, and her other brother's a stock analyst. And she speaks 4 or 5 languages and has 2 law degrees. So definitely a room where I am not the smartest guy in the room. So it was a very interesting experience. And like all times when I've left North Dakota, there are things I love greatly about it, and it makes me appreciate North Dakota a lot as well.
Why did you want to go into law?
I graduated with a psychology degree as an undergraduate degree, so that qualified me to go to graduate school in psychology, bartender, go to law school. That's what I always tell people. So I don't know, I've always liked debating. I've always liked those areas. And if you want the honest answer, I was the American Legion baseball coach in Dickinson and really wasn't willing to give that up. And 3 more years of school allowed me to coach the Legion team for 3 more years.
So did you play baseball?
I did. I was not very good. I was a better coach than I was a player.
That's what positions did you play?
Bench.
Okay.
First base. I played first base. I wasn't a very good baseball player. In fact, I think the only reason I didn't get cut my senior year is because the coach wanted me to call pitches.
And what? Tell us about your law practice. What primarily do you do?
Primarily criminal defense. Primarily criminal defense. I have quit doing that approximately about a year ago. I quit taking cases, and I do all in-house counsel to my dad's 2 oil companies at this point in time, which actually allowed me to run for the legislature. Because if I was a practicing trial attorney, I have a great partner out in Dickinson. I have another great partner in Grand Forks, and our firm is doing really well. But if I was still practicing law, this would be impossible to do.
How is doing oil law different from criminal law?
Well, and I only do oil law for our company, so I guess I hope my dad's listening, because I always say sometimes I traded 140 high-maintenance clients for 1 really high-maintenance client.
Anybody knows Mike Armstrong got that joke. Yeah.
So it's a company he built. My dad will never retire, but he's doing other things in his life and enjoying those things, and it's really nice to be home and help continue what we call the Armstrong Corporation brand and try and do good work out in western North Dakota.
What particular goals do you have, Senator Armstrong, in terms of, do you have any particular bills that you want to advance or any sort of subjects that you want to explore as a legislator?
Yeah, I mean, obviously tax relief is a big deal to me at every level. I don't mean this with any disrespect, but I think the general answer is if they have the money, they're going to spend it. I think that's been proven over the course of history, and not in North Dakota, I mean everywhere. And so tax relief is a big bill. And then I want a couple things, and I'm proud of this because we did it in judiciary the other day. We repealed a whole statute. And
which one?
It was a statute regarding that's already codified in the Supreme Court Code. It's really a minor thing, but that's the thing. It's a minor enough thing that I'm not sure it should have been codified in the code, and particularly because the technology changes. I mean, when this was put in, it was probably necessary. It's no longer necessary. I've dealt with the Century Code for 10 years. I think we have enough laws.
One of the interesting bills I've seen introduced in the last couple of days is a bill to repeal state regulation of tanning salons, which I thought was pretty interesting because the bill, when it was passed, it was lobbied for by Heidi Heitkamp, who, of course, is now our U.S. Senator, and she was a private citizen and lawyer at the time, and she was lobbying for regulation of tanning salons. And now there is a bill been introduced, it's in the House, that would repeal essentially that entire chapter. And that's something you don't see very often in the legislature is, okay, let's have this law and let's just get rid of it. Senator Campbell, do you have any particular goals that you want to pursue in the legislature?
Similar to Senator, less regulation, big thing. I'm probably not the guy that's going to introduce a dozen bills. If anything, less bills. I scrutinize things and challenge a lot of the people that have come. I think cavet emptor in Latin means less government involvement. I'm a big fan of that. Property tax relief, or of all tax reliefs, not just property, whether it's income tax or sales tax. I'm a proponent of all of those. I agree with the senator here that if they have the money, they'll spend it. So I'm a proponent of less government, the better. Kind of like the Reagan years. I think if we can put the money back in the business or back in our communities and our districts, I think we can spend it more wisely at home than in Bismarck.
We are coming to you live, by the way, tonight for the Legislature Today radio show from the Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar. Dale Wetzel asking questions tonight of our two guests, freshman legislators, Senator Kelly Armstrong of Dickinson, Senator Tom Campbell of Grafton. Dr. Jim Jones is here as well from the University of Mary Worldwide. And we are in our final moments of the Legislature Today hour chatting with these two individuals. Dr. Jones, any questions for Senator Campbell, Senator Armstrong?
I don't think I have any. I'm very impressed with why they want to do what they're doing in the legislature. I think it has to come from the heart, and if you know what your heart needs, then you're probably going to follow it. So,
Dr. Jones, you mentioned that you were quite involved in politics a while ago. Why are you not involved in it anymore? Or why did you get out of it, if that's the correct way to describe it?
I think I got smarter. I just didn't find that the avenue that I needed to go down. I graduated Morehead State. I was accepted into UND Law School because that's what I was going to be, and decided I didn't want to be an attorney and went a completely different direction. But service to everyone that you come in contact with, I'm at a stage in my life where I think I have to give back. So I'm trying to give back, and I think these young gentlemen will be doing the same thing through their process.
I'm curious, too, from both of you, obviously, with the notion we talked about the University of Mary trying to inspire, students and citizens to engage in the public service, mainly as a counter to the idea that somehow public service is, a dirty thing, or it's a bad thing to be a politician. Did you guys consider that when you were weighing the options about whether or not to enter the public service, that somehow adding the label politician might be bad for business, or might just be more headaches than it was worth? Senator Campbell first.
Well, you know what our approval rating is of our Washington, D.C. boys? It's like 9%, I believe, if I can even believe that. I read somewhere. So that's kind of disheartening. And I guess with some of the, with Romney and Rick Berg, some of the reasons I think that people are if you're successful, it's almost you have to be apologetic. So that's kind of disheartening as well. The American dream may be lost a little bit for a big part of our country. So if you focus on that, yeah, you probably would say, why am I going into this? But I'm the eternal optimist, I guess, in our business, in our plan, and our group in a district. And I'm going to try to change that and maybe bring back the American dream and less government involvement and more bring the money back home to whether it's North Dakota or Grafton District 19 is what I'm going to be a proponent of.
Senator Armstrong?
When I was saying, and it's one of the reasons I always ended. I've left Dickinson numerous times. I always end up back there. I always say, if you want to be anonymous, move to a big city. Part of the benefit of living in a small town is you should get involved, whether it's your fire department, whether it's the Optimist Club, whether it's city commission, county commission, zoning boards. This avenue was available to me because of my life circumstances. I was already a defense attorney, so I probably had a dirty word slapped on my name enough. So politics was no big deal, but for me, and it's you go to your strengths, and hopefully I can do a good job for my constituents down here. But I just really believe when you live in a small community, you need to get involved in something. That's part of the benefit and beauty of living in them.
How does your background as a lawyer and as a business person affect how you analyze issues, how you look at things?
I suppose you'd have to ask who's on the other side of the table to that question. I mean, good ideas can become bad law in a hurry. And that's how I approach everything I read. Is this a good idea? Yes. Is it a bad law? Yes or no. I mean, you need to check. Words are important in statute, incredibly important, because people get paid a lot of money to attack those statutes, whether it's civil, family, or anything. So I hope my background as a lawyer helps in statutory construction as much as anything.
Senator Campbell, how do you bring to bear your own background as a business person, as a farmer, to the issues that have nothing to do with either one?
I would hope that my experience in businesses, we've been in the restaurant business, trucking business, farming, banking, been unsuccessful at a lot of them, but I've gained a lot of experience, I think, in my 53 years of being here, and I would hope that I can maybe make those useful so far. Kelly and I are in a taxation committee together, and I think we've already worked together on some things with our experience and knowledge and the experiences that we've had of living the life of on the other side of it, paying the taxes. Now we're basically making tax law with our committee. So it's been fun, and I think I can bring those experiences and maybe try to tailor some of the laws to what we see on the other end of it.
We have a minute left. What, you two gentlemen, what have your constituents been telling you so far? Anything in particular that's remarkable?
I have not had, I mean, most of the constituents I've talked to at this point have been my friends and family, and they've been very supportive.
And they tell you you're doing a fine job.
Well, of course they do.
Oh, right. How about you, Senator Campbell?
Through Facebook, and I do a weekly update with a group email, and it's been very good, but of course I'm only hearing from the ones that are supporting me. Maybe in another month or 60 more days, I'll hear from the ones that don't like me, and I'll change my tune. We've
been talking this evening to Senator Kelly Armstrong from Dickinson, a Republican, Senator Tom Campbell from Grafton, a Republican, and a gentleman from the University of Mary, Mr. Jim Jones, Dr. Jim Jones, I should say, the Vice President for Continuing and Professional Education at the University of Mary, who is our sponsor for this evening, this second hour of our show.
America's Leadership University. Dr. Jones, thank you. We'll see you again down the road. Many Wednesdays. Senator Campbell, Senator Armstrong, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll no doubt be hearing more from all of these individuals in this legislative session, and we certainly look forward to that here on the Legislature Today radio show. Monday through Thursday evenings. If you miss a program, you can always catch it archived at GreatPlainsNews.com. GreatPlainsNews.com. Check out that website, and remember to join us Monday through Thursday nights, plus Saturdays, 10 a.m. to noon. And thank you for listening to another hour of the Legislature Today radio show on 550 K-Fire, AM 1100 The Flag, and AM 1090 Talk Radio, The Flag in the Box.